hard facts and myths about law firm economics. Just because somebody settled for 7 figures doesn't mean they're a millionaire. First of all, those numbers are misleading. In my first 3-4 years, every year I was growing at 4x. There's these Instagram pages, Neil, that post settlements, these big settlements that law firms achieve. And every time that happens, I always get text, "Hey, Sam, I'm thinking about doing this." I'm like, "Why? Did you just see this recent settlement from this law firm?" And like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why are you always following someone else?" And those numbers, first of all, are misleading. Just because somebody settled for 7 figures doesn't mean they're a millionaire. Obviously, there's attorney's fees. There was a lot of work, put a lot of manpower that it took to make that happen. And also maybe they had to go through 200 clients to be able to get that 7-figure settlement.
Well, that's exactly the truth. Before I did family law, I did personal injury law. And you got to do a whole lot of $3,000 car accident fender benders in hope of finding that 7-figure case.
This comes down to the KPIs and your profits and revenues when it comes to your law firm. Neil, what have you seen in this realm?
Yeah, here's an area where I was again slow to recognize what it was I didn't know. I kept great books about the status of my company, but I wasn't getting the insight from that I wanted. And I was in the pay myself at the end of the month with whatever's left over mentality. So I did two things. One, became more of a profit first advocate. In other words, I'm going to pay myself first and then manage the law firm with what's left. And that's big profit focused and not revenue focused. Because you can have $1 million of revenue, but if you only have 5% profit, you're not making any money. So you have to focus on the profit first. And then I got help. I got expertise. We'll talk about mentorship in a little bit. But I got a fractional CFO, Chief Financial Officer, a person who gives me that 40,000-foot look at where we are and where we're going, really helps me focus on generating a budget and sticking to that budget. And it's not any surprise that my law firm really started to be successful financially when I did those two things, focus on profit and hire a fractional CFO.
The other thing is, as you mentioned, Neil, the difference between profit versus revenue. There's top line revenue, which is how much money you make. But ultimately what matters, Neil, is the net profit. And that net profit is key. It comes down to managing your expenses, making sure that you're actually tracking your expenses. A lot of people that don't even know what's going on, to just make money and don't even know what the actual net profit is. And as Neil, as you shared, having that CTO, the Chief Financial Officer, who can come in and first get those numbers for you, analyze it, see where we can cut the fat, see where's the low-hanging fruit that we could double down on. But ultimately, it's not about how much you make, it's about what you keep. So let's focus on the profit.
And I would think along those lines, what I've found is that from a profitability standpoint, it's ruthlessly managing your expenditures. We oftentimes get into these reoccurring expenses and we forget we're paying them. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, we see we've paid $5,000 for what? What was that service that I bought that I never used? You have to really look at those on a monthly and quarterly basis. And if it's not returning some type of response, whether it be actual money or reducing your level of effort, you got to cut it out.
And also, I think a lot of it also comes down to creating realistic growth goals and going for it.
Yeah.
Whether that be creating goals that are big enough that motivates you to grow, but also is something that's realistic. From what I've seen,
I was opted for the achievable goal.
Achievable goal. Achievable, but a little bit far beyond what you think you can do, so you can actually strive for it. In my first 3-4 years, my numbers were 4x. Every year I was growing at 4x. Then at some point, I think it was ended up leveling off to 2.2. So that's where I've been. But from what I've seen, 2x is possible. It's completely possible. I think it's a good goal. Again, establishing where you are right now with you can only manage your revenue in the beginning when you're looking to grow. So looking to double your revenue from there. And then once you work on doubling your revenue, then at that point, getting very granular about your net. But from what I've seen, 2x growth is a good, ambitious goal that is completely possible with good strategic planning and with good support that could help you get there.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because when I first hired my CFO, he was asking me what my growth expectations were. And I said, well, like anything else, I want to grow as much as I possibly can. And he said, well, how about we just settle on 2x? Because that would be better than what you did last year. Okay, that's a good point.
Good, that's great. And the last thing I'm going to share is comparison is the death of joy. So don't compare yourself to anybody else. You're on your own path. Doesn't matter what settlements people are settling and what they're doing, or if there's a moneymaker here. Put your blinders on, focus on your own path, and then just you'll see that you'll be a much happier person.